Stop. Just stop for a moment. Whatever you were doing, whatever tab you were about to open, and whatever thought was pulling you somewhere else, let it go. Because something just happened, and I need you to understand the weight of it before we move any further. You won. Not in the way the world teaches you about winning, not a physical trophy, not a temporary prize, and not some fleeting moment of external validation that fades by morning. You won something far more rare, far more ancient, and far more permanent than anything this world could hand you. You won the spiritual resonance match. You won the frequency lottery. Out of every piece of digital content spinning through the atmosphere right now, out of every distraction competing for your attention, something deep inside your heart, qalb, locked on to this signal and brought you here. That was not an accident, and that was not a random algorithm. That was your spiritual field recognizing a divine reminder that matches the exact frequency of faith, iman, you are about to step into. This is confirmation. This is the universe holding up a mirror under the absolute decree of Allah, Qadar, and saying, yes, you are ready. Yes, it is time. The blessed chapter you have been aching for, praying for, and silently begging for in the quiet hours of Tahajjud is opening now. You are about to enter your best chapter. Let that reality land for a moment, not as a pleasant idea or motivational phrase you scroll past and forget, but let it settle directly into your body. Feel the part of your soul that recognizes this as truth, because a deep layer of your fitra, innate human nature, has been preparing for this exact moment. You have felt the internal acceleration lately. You have felt the strange restlessness, the painful shedding, and the inexplicable sense that the old, heedless version of your life, ghafla, no longer fits your soul. You have been walking through a long, dark hallway, and every door behind you has been violently closing. You could not understand why nothing was working the way it used to. You could not understand why old relationships shifted, why old environments felt suffocating, and why you kept outgrowing spaces you once thought were permanent. Here is the raw truth that the world conceals. That was never a loss. That was absolute divine preparation. Every single door that closed was not Allah punishing you. It was Him systematically clearing the corridor so your soul could walk unobstructed into the room that was always written for you. It was a room you could not enter while your arms were full of worldly attachments that did not belong in your next chapter. You had to arrive light, unburdened, and vibrationally precise. You are standing at the threshold now. Imagine a vast celestial library carved into the living rock outside of time, the preservation of the divine tablets, Lawh il-Mahfuz. In this spiritual realm, there are no physical books. Instead, there are frequencies of divine decree, each containing an entire reality and a distinct chapter of life. The vast majority of mankind wander through this world deaf to these higher frequencies because their internal worldly noise is too loud. Their financial anxieties, heavy attachments, and obsessive reliance on creation create a static so dense that the signals of their highest spiritual destiny cannot reach them. But every once in a while, a servant walks in who has done the deep inner work, not the exhausting work of worldly forcing or performance, but the work of tazkiyah, purification of the soul. When that person surrenders their ego, their authentic signal broadcasts clearly. Their field crosses a threshold, and a beautiful new chapter of their life activates immediately. Reality begins to reorganize around them because they have finally become the vibrational match for what was always waiting in the knowledge of the Almighty. You are that servant right now. This transmission was designed to find a heart in exactly that state of readiness.
There is a supreme principle that governs every quantum leap in a person's life, and it is so simple that most people completely overlook it. Society teaches you that transformation requires brutal worldly struggle, that you must earn your breakthrough by suffering through years of grinding to prove yourself worthy to some human judge. But that is the old, dense paradigm of the world. The true principle of your upgraded chapter is this: readiness is the ultimate key, not human effort. And spiritual readiness is not something you force through ego-driven willpower. It is something that crystallizes in your heart when enough old toxic patterns have been released. Think of it like a radio system designed by Al-Musawwir. Your heart was built to receive the highest station of peace and divine tranquility, but your dial was jammed, stuck on low frequencies, programmed into you by other people's fears, cultural conditioning, and past heartbreaks that taught you to shrink, doubt, and live in despair. All that recent upheaval and stripping away was the dial finally breaking free. It was your field recalibrating with precision, moving you toward the exact frequency where your best chapter lives. You have felt that the air around your life has completely changed texture. The things which used to instantly trigger your anxiety have lost their charge. The people and situations which used to consume your daily energy have somehow become smaller, less significant, and almost transparent. That is not you becoming cold or disconnected. That is your heart achieving absolute spiritual coherence. Your internal field is tightening. Your divine shield is activating. When your inner light activates, everything that does not match your frequency of faith begins to fall away automatically. Not because you aggressively pushed it out, but because low vibration chaos literally cannot maintain its position in a coherent field anymore. Coherent systems repel incoherent interference. When your personal field reaches a certain level of clarity, alignment, and unshakable trust, worldly drama slides off you like water off a sealed surface. You have shifted, and reality has no choice but to beautifully reorganize around your new signal. Let us activate this change right now, in this exact sinie, so that you do not return to the old frequency when this reminder ends. Take a deep, intentional, sovereign breath, pulling the air all the way down into your belly, expanding your lungs and your chest. Hold it in absolute peace for 3 seconds, and as you exhale, deliberately release one single thing from your field. Release a lingering fear, an unrepentant guilt, or a compressed version of yourself that you have been clinging to just because it felt familiar, even though it kept your soul small. Breathe it out. Your body and your energy know exactly what needs to leave your field. Trust the exhale. Now, speak these words out loud, letting the physical vibration of your voice create a literal acoustic field of command. I am entering my best chapter now, not someday, now. Feel the immense weight shift within your cells when you utter that truth.
That was not a faint wish or a passive hope. That was a definitive intention. You just informed the field of reality of your new spiritual address, and the universe does not argue with a coherent declaration. It reorganizes.
Let me tell you a secret about this upcoming chapter. It will not look the way your logical mind expects, and that is the absolute proof that it is real. Your conditioned mind can only imagine a future based on data from your past, giving you a slightly improved version of what you have already lived, a little more wealth, a little more comfort, or a little more social recognition. But what Allah has decreed for you is a category shift, a total dimensional upgrade for which your analytical mind has zero reference points. Your mind misinterprets the absence of a clear picture as danger, but your soul recognizes it as expansion. Your soul knows that the absolute best chapters are the ones you could never have written yourself because they completely exceed the limitations of your imagination. Consider the spiritual parable of a woman named Awara who lived at the edge of a vast, punishing desert. For years she had been walking toward a magnificent city of light and abundance she had heard about since childhood. She had been traveling through the shifting sands for so long that the struggle itself had become her entire identity. She was the one who endures, the one who suffers, the one who sacrifices, and she wore that identity like heavy armor because endurance was her only method of survival. But one morning, Awara awoke and noticed the sand beneath her feet had changed color. It was no longer the pale, endless bays of the desert. It was glowing gold. The air carried a profound sweetness she could not name. She looked up and realized she was standing directly at the first gate of the city. In that exact moment of arrival, a wave of terror hit Awara, and she froze. She realized that if she walked through that gate, she could no longer be the one who suffers. She could no longer hold on to the identity of the one who endures. She would have to completely become someone new, someone who has arrived, someone who receives, and someone who rests in peace. That concept of ease was so foreign to her conditioning that standing at the gate felt more terrifying than all her lonely years in the desert. This is the precise threshold where the majority of mankind panics and turns back. It is not the external distance or the difficulty of the path that stops them. It is the absolute identity shift required to receive what is already written and waiting. You are both Awara and the gate. Part of you has been walking through trials for so long that the struggle itself became your story. Standing at the edge of something beautiful, you feel the pull of the old wounded ego whispering, "Who are you to receive this peace? What if you are not ready?" You do not have to fight those whispers. You simply have to practice taslim, submission, and walk through the gate while they are talking. The moment you step through, those doubts lose their power because they are frequency-specific to the desert of your past. They cannot survive in your new city of light. When you fully cross this threshold, your entire energetic architecture undergoes a divine upgrade. Your internal nur undergoes a fundamental alignment, and everything in your external life upgrades with it, not because you aggressively chase new things, but because blessings begin to chase you. The old backwards paradigm of the world tells you that you have to hustle, compete, and desperately convince creation to give you what you deserve. But the direction of your actions changes completely when your heart is coherent.
Instead of chasing from a desperate place of lack, you move from a place of absolute inner overflow. Instead of grasping for opportunities, your field becomes a spiritual magnet for them. Your value becomes completely self-evident because it is radiating from your field before you even speak a single word. You have met righteous servants like this, people who walk into a room and the entire atmosphere shifts into peace, not because they are loud or performing, but because their field is perfectly clear, aligned, and broadcasting a frequency so clean that the universe responds without distortion. This chapter is about being your true self so fully, so unapologetically, and so coherently before your Creator that your reality has no choice but to mirror that light back to you.
Reclaiming this state of focus is a continuous, moment-by-moment practice. A daily choice to return to internal peace when the chaotic world tries to drag your soul back into anxiety. When you begin to rise above the average baseline of society, you create a kind of energetic friction. People who were comfortable with your old anxious self will feel unsettled. Situations that were stable when you were living in Hafla will begin to violently destabilize. This is not a sign that something is going wrong. It is the ultimate proof that something is going profoundly right. You are outgrowing the narrow container of your past, and the container is cracking open. Your best chapter does not begin with everything magically falling into place. It begins with everything that does not belong to your future falling away. That falling away can feel like a devastating loss or a failure, but if you can hold your frequency steady through the divine dismantling, you will see that every piece that fell away was a wall that was blocking your inner light. Once those walls come down, the light floods in with a force that will make you wonder how you ever survived in the dark. Here is your daily active integration practice. Every morning, before you check your digital phone, before you let the chaotic noise of the world enter your awareness, place both hands flat over your chest, over your spiritual heart center. Feel the warmth of your own palms and take 3 slow, deliberate, deep breaths. With each deep inhale, say silently to your soul, I am entering my best chapter. With each slow exhale, say, I release what is complete and not coming with me. Those 3 breaths will do more for your spiritual frequency than hours of anxious planning, because you are simultaneously affirming your new divine trajectory and releasing your attachment to the old story. You are giving the decree permission to clear your path. Do this for just 7 days and watch what begins to shift. Watch what toxic elements fall away, watch what blessings appear, and watch how reality materializes solutions from directions you never could have anticipated. This is the absolute law of consciousness interacting with the divine field of creation. Your best chapter is not a static physical destination. It is a spiritual frequency that must be actively maintained. You do not arrive at a high station of faith and then completely stop guarding your heart. You do not reach a peak of alignment and then lazily coast.
The exact moment you stop choosing coherence, entropy takes over, and the old background programs of doubt, resentment, and fear will try to creep back into your system. This is why so many seekers experience a massive breakthrough only to fall right back into their old ruts. They assume the spiritual work is finished. They stop making dhikr. They stop guarding their energy, and slowly the old limitations rebuild their walls. But your soul is ready for a permanent shift, and permanent shifts require permanent, light, and joyful practice. It is a practice that feels like coming home to yourself, a matter of remembering who you are rather than learning something foreign. This transmission is not teaching you something new, it is turning on a light that has been encoded in your fitra since before you took your first breath. Your state of heart is the ultimate author of your life's chapter. Your faith is the pen, and your intention is the ink. The page is the quantum field of Allah's creation, infinitely responsive and perfectly willing to mirror back to your life whatever signal your heart is broadcasting. So stop asking, how do I force my life to change? And start asking, who am I being right now? What frequency am I broadcasting in this exact sanya? Here is a truth that will instantly set your soul free. You do not have to humanly fix every single flaw, heal every past wound, or resolve every external conflict before your best chapter can begin. You simply have to be willing to stop identifying with the old story of lack. You just have to stand up and say, that was then, this is now. I honor my past trials and I release them because they are complete. Completion, that is the exact frequency of the threshold you are standing on right now. Your past was not a failure or a rejection, it was a graduation. You learned what your soul needed to learn, you felt what you needed to feel, and you were forged into exactly who you need to be to stand here today, fully prepared for the magnificent decree that comes next.
What comes next is far beyond your limited mind can construct, because your best chapter is written by your soul, operating on the supreme intelligence of the Creator. Your soul sees timelines, connections, and divine solutions that your anxious mind cannot possibly trace. The divine decree has been orchestrating this transition for longer than you realize, moving hidden pieces into place, removing obstacles you did not even know existed, and aligning circumstances with a mathematical precision that would take your breath away. You do not need to micromanage the logistics from above. You simply need to trust it from within, through absolute tawakkul. True trust is not a superficial emotion. It is an unshakable frequency of the heart. It is the frequency of total surrender without collapse, and the deep knowing that the same supreme intelligence that keeps your heart beating and your cells regenerating is the exact same power orchestrating your next chapter. That intelligence has never, not once, made a mistake in navigating your life. Be deeply prepared for how the people around you will react when you step into this elevated station of faith, because if you are not aware of this dynamic, it can pull your heart right back into the old static. When you spiritually shift, not everyone will celebrate your growth, and not everyone will be able to follow your soul into this new chapter. This is not due to active malice, it is simply because they are vibrating at their own level of worldly attachment.
When you elevate your frequency, they will intuitively feel the distance growing, and some will unconsciously try to close that gap by dragging your energy back down to their level rather than rising up themselves. People who are comfortable living in the fog of compromise will automatically resist anything that disrupts that comfort. Your growth, your expanded inner peace, and your light disrupt their stagnation. Your coherence acts as a painful mirror that highlights their internal chaos and doubt, and rather than face their own shadows, they will try to dim your light. Here is your divine command. You love them from a distance, and you keep walking. You do not dim your light, you do not shrink your values, and you never apologize for your spiritual expansion. The right, righteous people destined for your next chapter will be magnetically drawn to your light, not repelled by it. They won't ask you to dim, they will ask you how you got so bright. You are not doing this alone. You might feel entirely isolated in your immediate physical environment, but you are plugged into a massive global field of faithful souls who are navigating this exact same transition right now. Souls standing at the same threshold, entering their best chapter at the same frequency in different bodies across the world. When you engage with this truth, when you testify to your readiness, you are adding your coherence to a collective signal that strengthens the entire field, making it easier for every struggling soul to hold their frequency of faith. This is the beauty of spiritual resonance. It is never a zero-sum game. When one servant rises, the entire ummah rises. When one heart strengthens, the entire field strengthens. Your best chapter requires something from your life that your past lifestyle did not. It requires you to be authentically visible. It demands that you completely stop hiding, suppressing, or apologizing for the parts of yourself that a heedless world claimed were too much, too sensitive, or too intense. Those exact parts, your deep intuition, your high spiritual sensitivity, and your intense longing for absolute truth are the precise source of your unique frequency. They are what make your signal distinct in the sight of heaven. In your new chapter, your uniqueness is your ultimate superpower. The sensitivity that once overwhelmed your emotions becomes the precise intuition that guides your daily steps. The intensity that once exhausted your mind becomes the pure passion that fuels your devotion. Feel the immense relief of realizing that you do not have to become a fake, artificial version of someone else to enter your blessings. You simply have to become the original design, unedited, unfiltered, and undiminished. You shed everything that was never truly you, and your purified soul steps through the gate. Close your eyes right now if it is safe to do so, or simply soften your gaze, letting the external world become blurred. Bring your entire undivided attention directly into the absolute center of your chest, your spiritual heart center. Focus on that space behind your sternum that tightens when you are anxious and expands when you feel free. Visualize a magnificent, unquenchable light there, a light you are not creating, but a lantern you are finally uncovering from beneath the dust and debris of years of worldly doubt. With every single deep breath you take, visualize that dust being blown away. The light gets brighter, saturating your chest, filling your entire physical body, extending far beyond your skin, and forming an impenetrable, radiant shield of Nur around your life. While your field is in this expanded state, declare this law to your reality. O Allah, I am entirely ready for what exceeds my imagination. I am ready for the chapter that my soul has written under your decree. I step through the gate with absolute trust. Let that light pulse within your cells until there is zero room left for fear, and know with an unshakable certainty that you belong in this peace. Your best chapter is defined entirely by what emanates through you. The old worldly chapters were defined by accumulation, getting objects, achieving titles, and proving your worth to creation. Your best chapter is about emanation, radiating peace, transmitting truth, and broadcasting sakina from the inside out. When you shift your life from chasing to broadcasting, you connect directly to an infinite divine source that never runs out. You are no longer drawing from a limited worldly supply. You are a clear channel for the power that sustains galaxies and keeps planets in orbit. When you align your heart as a clear channel for your Creator, your capacity to create, love, and inspire becomes completely limitless. The things you used to exhaustively chase will begin arriving at your exact coordinates on their own, with eerie precision. Not because you manipulated them through willpower, but because you became a fixed point of coherent light that the universe can finally locate. To win in this life is to stop running after illusions and start radiating your divine truth.
You won the exact moment you chose to stop settling for a low worldly frequency that was suffocating your soul. You won the moment you decided that the temporary discomfort of spiritual growth was infinitely more bearable than the slow death of stagnation. And now the door opens, not with a loud, chaotic explosion, but with a quiet, certain, and completely irreversible click. When you finish this transmission, go to the comments below and type these 5 high-impact words with absolute intention. I am entering my best chapter. Treat this text not as a casual comment, but as an energetic stamp, a definitive signal to the field that you are crossing the threshold tonight. Let your declaration be seen, let it ripple through the grid, and let it activate the permission another traveling soul needs to read. Your frequency of faith is your absolute protection. Your shield is fully active, and your best chapter begins right now in this exact sania of your surrender. Welcome to the field. Now that your heart is beautifully recalibrated under the banner of Tawheed, there is an even deeper layer of divine wisdom waiting for your soul next. Go immediately and watch the quantum field stops resisting you the moment you completely surrender control, because it reveals the exact miracles that manifest when you entirely stop forcing reality through your human ego and let the flawless decree of Allah reorganize your entire physical life on your behalf. That is exactly where this transmission leads your soul tonight.